Welcome to this explainer. Okay, today we are diving into a really fascinating animated narrative called The Pilgrimage of Gugu, a test of resolve. Now, on the surface, this might just look like a charming little story set in a peaceful Indian village. But as we peel back the layers, you're going to see how perfectly it mirrors our own human struggles. We are going to unpack the true meaning behind Gugu, starting with a character that honestly, you might find surprisingly relatable.
Listen to this bold proclamation. This time, I am telling the truth. I will definitely go to Tungnath Dham. This single sentence pretty much sets the stage for our entire analysis today. I mean, it's a grand promise, right? Made with incredibly good intentions, but it is absolutely destined to face the ultimate test of reality. Think about your own life for a second. How often do we make these massive declarations? You know, we announce our grand goals to the world, kind of feeling that rush of accomplishment before we've even taken a single difficult step.
Part 1. The Legend of Gugu and the Anatomy of a Broken Promise.
So let's look at who exactly is making this vow. Meet Gugu, the ultimate relatable procrastinator. In the source material, he's depicted just standing around lazily, scratching his head while the morning sun bathes his peaceful village. But here's the thing, Gugu isn't just a lethargic villager. He's actually a mirror. He represents that exact part in all of us that desperately wants the glory of achievement completely without the friction of effort. He really wants the spiritual reward of reaching the sacred Tungnath temple, but, well, he hasn't exactly established a stellar track record of hard work.
And his environment completely shapes this narrative. He is known around town for deep lethargy and just outright avoiding basic chores. In fact, he's famously mocked for literally sleeping under trees while his cows graze. Even his own father just crosses his arms and doubts he'll ever do any good work. So when Gugu suddenly announces he's going on this grueling pilgrimage, the villagers literally laugh in his face. They tell him he wouldn't even survive half the journey. His grand declaration is met with laughter because his daily habits completely contradict this sudden burst of ambition. It's the classic mismatch between intention and action.
Part 2. The Divine Requirement and the Cosmic Stakes.
Now, let's violently zoom out from this lighthearted village banner all the way up to the majestic heights of Mount Kailash. Up in the celestial atmosphere, observing from the heavens, are Lord Shiva and Goddess Parvati. And Lord Shiva delivers what is absolutely the core thesis of our explainer today. Goddess, devotion isn't complete with just words. When Goddess Parvati wonders if this lazy villager is actually going to make the journey, Shiva knows that spoken intentions are completely hollow with the action to back them up. The universe is essentially watching to see if Gugu's resolve is true. Which brings us to a really vital concept, Purusharth. This is the required physical and spiritual effort, the persistence, and the actual action needed to prove one's devotion and achieve true growth. This brilliantly illustrates that words and intentions, they are completely meaningless without the engine of actual grinding effort behind them. Lord Shiva explicitly states that, along with faith, Purusharth is absolutely required. You simply cannot wish your way up a mountain.
Part 3. Facing the harsh reality and the friction. Down on Earth, it's time for the rubber to meet the road. The local leader of the pilgrimage, a guy named Lucky, introduces the harsh reality. 2 months. That is the staggering amount of time it will take to complete this grueling trek entirely on foot. Lucky gathers the villagers before dawn, telling them they must leave early for safety, and he isn't sugarcoating it at all. 2 months of relentless walking. This isn't some quick weekend getaway. It is a massive, life-altering commitment.
Let's break down exactly what those 2 months look like. The route itself is a literal mountain of difficulty. First, the mountains, then the dense forests, third, the steep, exhausting climbs, and fourth, dangerous, rocky paths. When Lucky explains this route, the other devotees are totally fired up, chanting that no hardship is too big when you're called to a higher purpose. But for Gugu, this list represents an insurmountable wall of friction, and it perfectly explains why he gets so completely overwhelmed.
Part 4. The Illusion of Convenience and the Rationalization.
When faced with this towering friction, we get to witness Gugu's comedic but honestly highly relatable psychological retreat. My feet will get blisters. When Lucky warmly invites Gugu to join them, Gugu immediately imagines these painful blisters on his feet. I actually want to use this exact excuse as a mirror for our own lives. I mean, how often do we abandon our own metaphorical Tungnath because we are terrified of a few blisters? We give up on the marathon, the new business, or the degree because we suddenly realize that the day-to-day reality of achieving it is going to be incredibly uncomfortable.
What's really fascinating here is the stark contrast between the vow and the rationalization. His grand intention was to definitely go to Tungnath,
But he rationalizes his retreat by saying, "I'll just visit the local temple because God is everywhere." This comparison perfectly captures the tragic irony of human nature. Gugu uses a profound spiritual philosophy, the omnipresence of God, to justify his own laziness. He literally convinces himself that the comfortable, blister-free option right next door is exactly the same as the grueling 2-month trek.
But Lucky, being the wise leader he is, patiently places a hand on Gugu's shoulder under a large banyan tree and corrects this huge misconception. He reminds him about the tapasya, or penance, of the journey. He says the journey's penance is what transforms a person, not just seeing the temple. The absolutely crucial point here is that the friction itself is the point. The steep climbs, the rocky paths, the blisters, they aren't obstacles preventing the transformation, they are the vehicle for it. Removing the difficulty completely removes the transformation.
Part 5. The Cost of Comfort and the Aftermath.
Despite this wisdom and despite the whole village offering to support him, Gugu stays behind. Let's look at the emotional and psychological fallout of choosing convenience over growth. The visual and sonic contrast detailed in the source material is striking. On one side, we have the departure, the devotees marching powerfully, their walking sticks hitting the ground, chanting Har Har Mahadev with absolute purpose. On the other side, we have Gugu's isolation. He's standing completely alone in the evening light, just watching the dust rise in the distance as they leave. That high-energy departure of the group makes Gugu's melancholic silence and his failure to launch incredibly palpable.
So let's break down exactly what Gugu won by staying home. This is the anatomy of regret. First, he's left behind in a suddenly very quiet village. Second, as the pilgrims left, they continued to mock his idleness, firmly cementing his reputation. Third, with moist eyes in the fading light, he has the painful realization that he really should have gone with them. And finally, what does he do? He settles for the empty promise of next time. Choosing comfort didn't actually bring him peace. It only brought isolation, deep self-doubt, and the heavy, lingering burden of regret.
And that brings us to the core takeaway of this explainer. The true meaning behind Gugu isn't just an animation. It's a profound warning about the cost of avoiding the hard path. So I want to leave you with this provocative question. What is your Tungneth? And are you letting the fear of blisters keep you at home? Challenge how you approach the difficult, transformational journeys in your own life. Are you going to put in the Purusharth? Are you going to stand in the dust, whispering, maybe next time? Thank you so much for exploring this with me today. Let that question sit with you, and I will see you in the next explainer.